Guys like Tony Ferguson are famous for making their opponents bleed, opening cuts everywhere and blood all over the canvas, bleeding fighters. That's what MMA fans love. But how do these guys create these cuts? What is the best way for you to create a cut in your opponent if you want to fight in an MMA competition? Hello and welcome to Bloodsport MMA.
Salam alaikum. Walaikum salam.
Opening your opponent's skin, making them bleed with a cut is one of the most confident and satisfying feelings an MMA fighter can get. As brutal as that might sound, that's the reality. And fans love it when the fighters are cut open, blood is on the canvas everywhere. But how do you as a fighter yourself make your opponent bleed the fastest? What strikes are the most effective to make someone be cut open? So you need to look at it like that. To open your opponent's skin, it needs something sharp. Now, let's assume you are in an MMA fight, okay? Let's just talk MMA fights. You have your MMA gloves on, which are not the biggest ones, so it's easier to cut someone with your fists as well than with boxing gloves, but they're still 4 ounces of leather on top of you.
I'm coming.
So punches on themselves are not the most effective way to cut someone open. Of course you can do. Most important there is that you hit with your knuckles, especially for most of the people. The front knuckle here is the biggest one, the one that comes out the most.
It's so big.
And the most important thing is if you hit someone normally it's like these 2 knuckles that are the most dominant, to hit them with these 2 knuckles if you want to cut them open, especially with the biggest one, because that's a sharp bone, and normally bones open cuts. If you slap someone, it normally doesn't open a cut on him. It's the bones that make cuts, right? So first of all, the bonier you are, like if you're Tony Ferguson with like elbows that come out to here and like knuckles that come out like crazy, that's a big plus to cut someone. But if you want to cut someone, with your fist, you really want to hit him with the biggest knuckle or the biggest 2 knuckles, depending on how how your fist is shaped.
You have 2 hands.
And hit them flush like this, because many people just hit like, somehow like this, whatever. They don't really hit with the knuckle first, with the bone here first, because that's what opens the cut. So especially straight right. A jab, depending on how much power you have, is normally not the weapon that makes someone cut. But if you have a really hard straight and you perfectly hit it with your knuckle, you can cut someone open for sure with an MMA glove. So that's why it's always important, not just because of the cuts, but overall, to always look that you land with your knuckles on your opponent. But overall, fists are not the most cut opening tool that you have. Now let's go to the kicks. Kicks are good because you always need to search for something that is not padded. The more padding there is, the harder it is to open a cut. Shins are not padded, right? But the only problem with the shin is your shin bone here, it's like a pretty big sized bone that is not the sharpest. Because the sharp side is on here on the front. Normally you don't hit someone with the front of your shin. That would be a weird kick. You normally hit him here with the side of your shin, which is pretty flattened out. It's not sharp, it's flattened out.
Okay, this earth is flat, it's fixed, and the stars and stuff rotate around us.
Which is the reason why kicks are not the best tool to open cuts. Of course, it's possible if you hit someone with a beautiful hack kick on his eyebrow, especially the brows are a place that cuts open pretty fast. That's also a point that, depending on where in the face, like the brows are something that cuts open pretty fast. I'm not a doctor, but I would probably think, because there's bones right underneath here. For example, here where you don't really have bones underneath, it doesn't cut that easy. I don't think I've ever seen someone with a cut here on his cheek. But for example, here as well, on the cheekbone, it's just skin and immediately bone. And here you also cut open pretty easily. Forehead cuts are also common because there's also, as I said, skull right behind the skin, but somehow the best areas to get cut, or the easiest areas people get cut from, is the cheekbone and the eyebrows. Most tools that you have with your body can open cuts, but the likeliness is just not so high. Like with the 2 tools I will tell you right now. So the number 2 tool to use to open a cut is the knee. Now the knee is not the most sharp object as well, depending on how your knee is shaped. Like take Tony Ferguson for example, has weird shaped knees that somehow are sharp. But the knees are definitely much more sharp, like especially here, top here, much more sharp than the flat shin, right? The only problem with the knees is it's not that easy to hit someone with a knee in his head. You either have to jump up, do a flying knee, jumping knee, or in a tie clinch, for example, take his head down, boom, boom, knee him, right? Or if you're in Pride, with Pride rules, you can knee him to the head when he's grounded. Doesn't matter about that. But, or even in one championship, I forgot about that. But the knees are a very effective tool to cut someone. The only reason why you don't see too many cuts coming from knees is because it's not that easy to hit someone flush with a knee. But if you have a beautiful jump knee and you hit that right to the eyebrow or to the cheekbone, it will cut with a very high certainty, right? But there's one tool, guys, one tool that is nearly a guarantee for cuts that is so effective. You can use it in several different positions, and it's, if you want to cut your opponent, you have to sharpen this weapon as much as you can, train as much as you can, and use setups. And these are the elbows. There's a reason why Curtis razor blades is called razor blades, because he cuts people with his elbows always. He has a tattoo now, which kind of looks silly, of a razor blade on his elbow, kind of through his elbow. It's just amplified that his elbow cuts people open. And Tony Ferguson is again the best example. Tony used his elbows in every possible way and cut people open badly. And if you cut someone open, you damage them a lot in the fight. First of all, it's damage for the judges. Second of all, if the blood comes into the eye, in the mouth, whatever, it disturbs you. You can't fight that good anymore. If you get hit into the cut, it doesn't feel nice, you know what I mean? And the elbows are so sharp. It's probably the sharpest bone you can have to hurt someone and to cut someone open. It's so sharp. You can use it in several different ways. Like upwards, it's perfect if you hit it on the cheekbone here. If you do the upwards elbow, the downwards elbow, like the normal one. Again, skull, eyebrow, cheekbone. So elbows can be used in the stand-up, in the ground and pound, right? Just don't do 12 to 6 elbows on the ground. It's illegal. You can even do jump 12 to 6 though in the stand-up, but just don't do 12 to 6 on the ground, otherwise you get disqualified like John Jones. But this is really the biggest magic of them all to open up people's skin, is to use your elbows. And it's really important as well to know how to use your elbows, because if you just like, I don't know, throw them like this, somehow you won't cut someone open. It needs to be pop, really sharp. So if you hit your hand with your elbow, it should hurt. Like it shouldn't feel nice, especially if you hit that part of your hand. It shouldn't feel nice, you know what I mean? And it should feel sharp. So that's always a test that you can do to kind of test what you hit with, because if you hit with here with your elbow, the inside, you won't do too much damage. You want to hit with the sharpest side here. Some people like to do this. I like to put my hand to the outside, but it doesn't really matter. Just hit your hand with it. That's a really good trick for me. Hit your hand with the elbow, how you would throw it. And if you feel the very sharp, thin skull, like nearly drilling into your hand, then you know you do it right, and you will cut people open if you hit them with it. Just, if you are an MMA fighter, you always wonder how to cut people open the best. That's the best way to do it, guys. Sharp elbows. What is your favorite tool to use in a fight? Write it down below in the comments, guys. Would really appreciate that. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel for more tips in the future, and most importantly, guys, that you get sharp elbows, eat your fruits, and eat your vegetables, guys. Until next time, bye-bye. Bloodsport out.